welcome to the NK Active podcast, episode 10. I really hope you enjoyed the last episode. So this month we have Tabatha with us, who is a podiatry student at the University of Southampton in her second year. And it's something that NK Active we've recently started doing, taking students as part of their educational journey. So Tabatha, thank you for joining us. And sort of just tell us a bit about yourself and sort of how you got to where you are today.
Okay, so I'm Tabatha, obviously, and so I'm a second year student at Southampton University, and I have come to podiatry quite late on. So my original career was food technology, and then I took a significant career break to have children, and became a sports massage therapist after having children. So came to podiatry after that because I was interested in the health side of things, rehabilitating people and making them better. And I wanted more than I got from sports massage.
Yeah. And then what made you then, out of all the professions, what made you then sort of choose podiatry?
So I was researching the different career options that you could have, and it was a toss-up between podiatry, and I also looked at physiotherapy, which would have probably been logical coming back from the background that I had. But podiatry was interesting because it has a variety of options within it, from the NHS to private practice. So you've got the MSK, musculoskeletal side of things, plus the slightly more medicalised wound care, diabetes care within there, and the high-risk foot. Plus, there's also the option that you could go down a surgical route.
Yeah, I'm biased. I think you made the right decision over physiotherapy or podiatry, but I'm a podiatrist, so I'm going to say that. So talk us through about your journey through as a podiatry student sort of so far, because obviously it's been partly within this sort of COVID world that we currently are hopefully coming out of soon. But sort of talk about your experience and journey.
The COVID world has kind of thrown a bit of a spanner in the works. So for our first year, the placements were all cancelled. So COVID sprung up. It was about a year ago now. So lectures suddenly all went online. We were at home. We couldn't go on our first placement. Then we returned back to university to learning through Teams. And then our first placements were before Christmas. So that was the NHS in a pandemic world.
Yeah.
But we were lucky to get there, and it's a case of we just all have to get on with things now and learn and progress. And I've got to graduate, pandemic or no pandemic.
Yeah, no, exactly. The world still keeps spinning around, doesn't it?
Exactly.
So you are our second student we've had on sort of this placement block, and sort of how you found things coming, because I imagine it's a little different from typical placements.
It's very different from the NHS, which was where I was before, which was also a fantastic placement and gave me lots of experience. But I think the advantages of coming to a private placement are you can see the full scope of podiatry, especially seeing the strength and conditioning and the additional scope that NK Active pushes, and it's pushing the boundaries of podiatry. So it's not the typical toenail clipping and callus removal that you get. And it's what probably the image of, chiropody has been in the past, but this is more functional. It's getting people to fitness. It's the strength and the conditioning. So it's pushing the boundaries here.
Yeah, we try and make sure that we operate towards what we call the top of our license. So we sort of use our degree to the fullest that we can. And it's nice because that's what we want to try and do here, is change people's perceptions of what a podiatrist is, what a podiatrist can do. That there aren't many clinics out there that have such a focus on sort of the strength and the rehab side of things that we do here. So what have been your sort of 3 best things that you've done during this placement?
3 best things. So it's, apart from electrocuting my leg. So the complex, the learning there, that was excellent. It's learning the anatomy. It's also shadowing and seeing the strength and the rehabilitation from some of the patients beginning. I haven't quite seen to the end of their journeys, but seeing the improvement and the function that they're getting back. Plus, Charlie's been encouraging me to do some research and carry out a project while I've been here, so that you can see the full spectrum and the clinical research that can be done within a private clinic. Is also pretty awesome.
Yeah, so that's something called a complex. That's a muscle stimulator. So you basically stick some pads to whatever part of the body, and it essentially puts a small electrical current, which then stimulates the muscles to fire. So we use it as a way to help teach anatomy in the way that it affects you. So if you stick it on certain muscles in the foot and the leg, you can make the foot and the leg do certain things. It's a great way to learn, I think, in actually, do you know where that muscle really is? Well, let's stick a complex pad on it, put some voltage through it, and see what happens. And if the foot moves or leg moves in a certain way, you're in the right spot. If not, you're not, because doing that surface and functional anatomy is learning anatomy in a textbook or looking at cadavers. But then when you're then looking at a living human being where you've got all this extra tissue and skin around it, you think, I know where this should be. But actually, especially when you start trying to, for example, we got you to draw the bones of the foot, and that, again, you think that sounds really simple, but it's actually quite a difficult task to do, is draw the bones on the foot on top of the foot. It's not the easiest thing to do. And you then alluded to the trying to then do, because you've done some audit process of our plantar plate data.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it is trying to show that in private practice you can do this auditing, you can still do the research that people tell and say, actually, you can't do that because it's a private practice. And I'm wanting to tell people, if someone says to me, you can't do something, and I ask why, and they can't give me a valid answer, I'm like, well, that doesn't mean it can't be done. It just means it hasn't been done. Exactly.
And research and auditing is so important in any practice, whether that's NHS or private, because it's all about improving and being better and seeing or finding the areas that can be improved to provide a better service for patients.
Yeah, it's something that I think is so, so important, especially for the profession of podiatry, where generally there isn't much data out there. Is actually we can now start saying, okay, we're going to do X, Y, and Z, and here's our data to back up that we've done X, Y, and Z. Or actually there was a case note review that we went through that treatment didn't quite go as we wanted. So then we were able to then sit down, review what's gone on, and then sit there and then work out, okay, this is how we then prevent this happening again. And this is what we then make the changes to the clinical practice to make sure you can still offer that. And it's sort of, I think, being open and not being scared of doing that. It's okay. Things don't always go to plan 100% of the time, but it's then reflecting on that process and then building yourself further forward. So obviously you had no idea what to expect when coming on placement here. What's been the thing that you sort of surprised you the most, as it were?
I think it surprised me as to how much I've loved it. I think my career path was always, I'm going to do podiatry and then I'm going to go and work in the NHS, probably in wound care. And then it's opened this whole new world of possibility.
Good. Mission achieved, that we sort of trying to get another person towards the MSK pathway. Yeah, that's mission achieved on my end.
I think so. We're all a bit scared of MSK at university. I think it's always been made out to be this really daunting, scary thing, and it's not, because it's the backbone of our profession.
And it comes into everything that you do. It comes into wound care. Like a lot of wounds and corns and callus will be there because of different forces and pressures going through the foot. So that's still, and I've never really understood why there's been, in podiatry, there's this nervousness around about the musculoskeletal world and injuries. But actually, we feel very comfortable in taking an extremely sharp object, i.e. a scalpel, to someone's foot and debriding tissue away. But yet we're then nervous about the MSK. And I never really think you can do a lot more harm with a scalpel.
Exactly.
Is there anything that you hadn't seen that you wish you had seen?
I still haven't seen any nail surgery, but that will come. Probably I'd like to see more imaging. And I think it's just a case of, in a pandemic world, you don't always get to see everything. And it's a case of what walks through the door.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate the time and place. So we're testing different ultrasound machines at the moment. And it's just with COVID and then Brexit stuff, we've had one go back, but our other one hasn't arrived. Yeah, and his as you've experienced, sort of clinic can be a little lumpy at the moment with people changing appointments or booking in last minute or whatnot. It can be, and then doing lots of virtual stuff. So it has been a little different, should we say? But it's just living in that COVID world. So where do you really then think do you see yourself now going forward? Then obviously you've got finish second year and then you'll then finish third year and then you'll graduate. So where do you then now see yourself going?
I think it's going to have an MSK bias, but I'm keeping my mind open at the moment because I keep changing my mind. I can be a bit fickle.
Yeah,
but there's so many options.
But you need to do that because you're at the start of your sort of podiatric career as well. You need to go and experience as much as you can to decide what you like, what works for you. So after placement, then what's next? Is it back to lectures?
We are back to lectures next week, and so it's lectures and study until the summer, and then it's a summer off with the children, probably whilst reading.
Summer off with the children, but I should imagine doing lecture stuff and placement stuff is easier work than trying to manage children.
It can be, but trying to do placement, manage children is trickier than just children on their own. Yeah,
no. Well, thank you very much for taking time to come and chat to us, just to share your views and experience of what it's like to be on placement and character, because there is something new that we're doing and we want to try and give back and help out and help and just sort of change people's perception of what you can and can't do in the private setting. So as always, don't forget to like and subscribe. If you want to put any comments, just post them in the comment section and we will get back to you. I would normally at this point be telling you what next month's episode is going to be. But if I'm completely honest, I haven't planned that yet. So I can't really tell you, but hope you've enjoyed it and we shall see you next month. See you later. Bye.